I am so tired of coming on this podcast every single week and telling you to stop playing T.Y. Hilton. Like, just stop it.
Mikey needs help.
Mikey needs help.
I was like, if you don't have Jeff Wilson in here, and if you don't run it on first down, I'm gonna strangle you through that TV.
You should know better than everyone else. That fool tears you up when you plays you.
Yeah, but he
Don't you want him on your team?
I have him at number 25.
Thank you. Fine. Todd's the reasonable one on this show.
I take issue with everything he said there.
Well,
I really do.
DeAndre Swift. He's gonna break them tackles, son.
That's bold. That's bold. That's putting your nuts on the table right there.
Hey, there's the first time for everything.
Waxing poetic over here with Todd Diamond.
Dude's old.
So what? He's not as old as Brady, and you're jerking him off before the show starts.
I have Sutton in my top 10. I have him at number 9.
Yes.
You know what? I'm just canceling the league. I can't do this with you guys. All right, welcome to another edition of the MHA podcast. It's August 10th, and we're here to bring you the wide receiver talk. In fact, we're going to get into it. You know, when I was editing the last show, we talked about running backs. We didn't get to a lot of them because a lot of banter, a lot of stuff that I ended up taking out of the podcast because we wanted to bring you as much running back talk as we could. So we're going to do that today, and not too much of the banter going on. No MHA trivia. Todd can't lose this week. That's good.
Yay.
So we're going to jump right into the wide receiver talk. But before we do, you guys doing okay?
Yeah. Doing fantastically. It's your birthday today, so happy birthday.
Oh, stop. Yeah, so what? Another year older, another year closer to death.
No, age is just a number, not a state of mind, but it's all good.
Ooh, look at Todd. Philosophic.
Yeah.
Let's not get too deep down this rabbit hole. Who knows what's going to come out of it? Yeah, it was a fun day. Got to see some Broncos training camp. Hung out with you guys. Got some food. Got to see Russell Wilson less than like 30 yards away from us. That was kind of cool. So we're excited for the Broncos season. But we're here to talk about receivers. So let's get right into it, guys. You guys created your rankings. I've got your rankings right in front of me. We'll talk about those in just a moment. But let's talk about the receiver position real quickly here. I gave you guys a list of questions. So hopefully you have the answers in front of you. But do you feel that the wide receiver position is deep? What do you guys think about that? How many wide receivers would you feel comfortable as your number one wide receiver? And Mikey, we'll start with you.
Ooh, tough question.
That's why I'm asking it, because the audience needs to know, or I at least need to know, so I can try to beat you guys this year.
There you go.
Like, it's deep in a way, but as far as like number one type guys, I think there's a separation between my top 7 versus the rest.
Okay, I hear you there. So you're saying you have 7 wide receivers you feel comfortable being your number one this year.
Correct. But I mean, after that, it's pretty deep, full of guys that are, could be 2s and 3s.
Okay, what do you think, Todd? Deep position this year?
Absolutely. And I have 12 wide receivers that I feel comfortable being my number one wide receiver that could be a number one wide receiver.
All right, I like that. So you guys feel it's deep. We'll see as we go along here. Let's talk about the number one wide receiver in all the land. Now, obviously, Cooper Kupp coming off an amazing, thrilling, epic 2021 season, Triple Crown winner in terms of yards, receptions, and touchdowns. I thought it was interesting. I didn't even look until just today, but he had 332 points, which was second amongst all scoring minus quarterbacks in our league. Jonathan Taylor still had a few more points than Cooper Kupp. But what a season for Kupp. A lot of websites, a lot of podcasts, they have Cooper Kupp number one. I'm looking at your rankings, and I'm the only one that has Cooper Kupp number one. Todd, who is your number one guy?
It is, I call it Mr. Consistency in the last few years. Football is Devontae Adams.
Oh, wow.
Now
that's crazy.
Yeah, I know. Oh, wow. I know, right? What?
Wait,
wow,
what?
breaking news. What? Devontae Adams? Oh, come on now. No.
All right. Tell me why.
Okay, so obviously Devontae Adams is not in Green Bay. He's not attached to Aaron Rodgers anymore, and that was always my point. I always stressed every single year was he is attached to Aaron Rodgers, and anybody attached mostly to Aaron Rodgers is going to be a good thing. Now he goes to Oakland, now has Derek Carr throwing him the ball. Now, obviously, take it for whatever this is worth, but obviously they were college teammates. So obviously you got that going for them. But I just think Devontae Adams is to a point now in his career where he is quarterback proof. Doesn't matter who is throwing him the ball. Any of us could be throwing him any of us could be the quarterbacks, and he'd still put up the numbers he put up in Green Bay. So that is why, that's why I have Adams 1 and not Cooper Kupp like everybody else, because let's see if Cooper Kupp can do what I don't think he's going to do what he did last year, but maybe close to it. But Adams just feels more consistent to me. Has been more consistent. That's why I have him number 1.
Well, he's been consistent because he's been with a consistent quarterback. But Mikey, you also have Devontae Adams as your number 1. Explain yourself.
Yeah, Mikey's on my side. Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Mikey, that you're on Todd's side? I mean, that's got to feel great, right?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah. All right.
I just, when I think about receivers, the one thing that I always think that I want, especially from the number 1, is touchdowns. And I think it's something that's not going to change much from Rodgers to Carr. I mean, I feel like Devontae Adams is the best red zone wide receiver in the league. And even if it's a drop down in quarterback, I don't think that's really going to change. Like, I feel like with Cooper Kupp, he's a great receiver in a great situation, but I think there's he had like one of the greatest seasons ever. So there's going to be some regression there. And I just feel like Todd mentioned consistency. I feel like that's there with Adams year in and year out.
Interesting. I think you guys are nuts, but okay. If, for me, you had Cooper Kupp, number 1. Like, I understand that, and this would have been my MHA trivia question, but we're not doing MHA trivia. But how often does the number 1 wide receiver score number 1 the next year? Very rare, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you talk about the last few years. The last time it happened was in 2014 and 2015 when who did it? Quickly.
Calvin Johnson.
Wrong. Mikey?
Oh, man. Put me on the spot. I have no idea. I'll just say DeAndre Hopkins.
Wrong. It was Antonio Brown. Mm-hmm. So since then, after Antonio Brown finished first, this is our league scoring. In 2015, Antonio Brown. The next year, Jordy Nelson. The next year, DeAndre Hopkins. The next year, Devontae Adams. Next year, Michael Thomas. Next year, Devontae Adams. So I get it. You're going against the grain because it's highly unlikely that Cooper Kupp's going to regress and not put up the same type of numbers as he did last year. I don't think anybody's suggesting he's going to. But did you know Cooper Kupp could have scored 15 fewer touchdowns last year and still finished number 1? Like, that is absurd. That's how great that season was. And nothing really changes for him. You could say that they lost Odell Beckham, but then they bring in Allen Robinson. I know Matt Stafford's dealing with some kind of injury right now. I don't know if that's what's kind of putting you guys a little hesitant to put Cooper Kupp number 1. But, man, oh, man, I mean, historically, he's hitting 16 or more touchdowns in terms of just being able to score touchdowns. He's put up decent numbers his whole career. So I don't know. I guess, if we're talking about quarterback situation, and I feel like Mikey was okay with Derek Carr last year as a fantasy quarterback, but you guys must really appreciate, I don't know if that's the right word, but feel that that Derek Carr can put up stellar numbers to be able to fill Adams' quota, to fill Darren Waller's target needs, Hunter Renfrow, if you think he's going to put up big numbers, but to reach Devontae Adams' numbers, I don't know. I feel like you really have to be high on Derek Carr. Am I wrong?
I think when you finally, I don't know, when you put a good weapon, a proven weapon, with a quarterback that maybe is not elite, but close, not close to it, but kind of on that tier. I think it changes your perception a little bit, and it changes your mindset. Well, you're putting one of the best wide receivers, with a quarterback that's maybe right at that, that's maybe close to status, but maybe I'm just maybe not nitpicking, maybe I'm just cherry picking that. Like, okay, Devontae Adams is gonna, change it all the way. It's gonna just change the mindset and help Derek Carr, but it's no, it's tricky because at the end of the day with this is you're going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr, and I get it. That's a huge. I made it huge, but that's a little bit of a drop off. I get that.
It's huge. You're talking about a Hall of Fame quarterback to an average quarterback, right? I mean, that's a big difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The guy
Yeah,
that he's had chemistry with for his entire career, and he goes to a guy. Now, I'm not saying he can't come in and have good chemistry. That's what off-season, training camp, preseason games are all about, even if they get into preseason games. But with such a huge difference to have him as the number one, I feel like there's just so many obstacles for him to. I'm not saying. I mean, Devontae Adams could be the best wide receiver in the league, but he can't throw the ball to himself.
No, but I agree with you there. Yeah.
Mikey?
I think Eric's throwing a lot of shade at Derek Carr.
No, I mean, I have Devontae Adams ranked 5th because I feel like I am high on Derek Carr. But I mean, I love Darren Waller, and then I think I have Hunter Renfrow pretty high considering the consensus outside of this. So I just don't know with Cooper Kupp, there's less obstacles to be number one. Justin Jefferson, less obstacles to be number one. But Devontae Adams to come in, and I mean, if you're thinking that he's going to put up, numbers that he has in the past, when he's had 115 receptions, 18 touchdowns, which was 2 years ago, I don't know. I mean, Derek Carr doesn't put up touchdowns at that type of rate. His touchdown rate percentage is 4.3, where Aaron Rodgers was 6.3. It's a big difference, but we probably shouldn't spend too much time on this. We'll go to the next question here. We kind of talk about the next, I guess, layer of elite wide receivers, and maybe we're all different on this and we can kind of adjust, but I asked you guys, and you can talk about Cooper Kupp in this too, since I assumed we were all going to pick Cooper Kupp in that, but I asked you guys to rank these 3 wide receivers in terms of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Stephon Diggs. And I'll let Mikey go first. How did you kind of rank those 3?
It was close, but I took Chase, Jefferson, and then Diggs. I thought Chase showed more big play ability than the other two. And he did that in his rookie season. That was what was so impressive to me. Usually receivers kind of take that next step up, which Jefferson did in his second year, in year 2. So, as good as Chase was in that first year, I think he's going to be that much better. So I give him a slight nudge over Justin Jefferson. And then, nothing wrong with Diggs, but I think he had his career year 2 years ago, and I don't see him launching back towards that.
Any reason why? I'm just curious about Stephon Diggs because in terms of his situation compared to the others, but I know he had he regressed from 2 years ago for sure. 2 years ago, he had 166 targets, but had 164 the next year, 1,500 yards. That regressed to 1,200, 127 receptions to 103. I mean, he hasn't reached the 30-year plateau quite yet, but you just like the upside of the other guys, huh?
Well, I honestly just don't looking at it realistically. I don't think he's as good a receiver as those other guys.
Interesting.
I also think that Buffalo is probably going to lean more balanced than they have in the past.
Okay. All right. I mean, all right, Todd, what about you? You rank those guys. We were talking about Jefferson, Chase, and Diggs. Feel free to talk about whoever you want in that mix.
Yeah, well, again, I'm gonna go 2 for 2 here, but me and Mikey agreed again. I've Chase 1, Jefferson 2, and Diggs 5. Excuse me, 3. Excuse me, Diggs ranked 5th. Um, I guess I'll go with, because obviously we all know how I feel about Jamar Chase, so we won't go into that. But
Loves him.
oh
Loves
yeah,
him.
yeah. Hey,
Mm.
that was my medal of last year of ha ha ha, I got it right. No, I'll go with talk about Justin Jefferson. Obviously Justin Jefferson in his rookie year and what he did, um, putting up the point total he did, especially with another consistent quarterback. I mean, obviously Kirk Cousins, not elite, but he's consistent enough. Obviously last year, um, 10 touchdowns for Justin Jefferson, 1,600 yards, 108 receptions. It's close. I mean, because these three wide receivers, if you had a choice of draft, if you had whatever was left over, you're not going like, oh crap, like dang, and I missed out. No, you would be happy with any one of these three wide receivers. But Justin Jefferson, another one of those getting to a point now, a little bit of consistency, a little bit more, where you're like, all right, he'll put up those big numbers. He'll put up big numbers, but he'll be consistent for you. You won't have to worry about like, well, is he going to have a bad week or whatever the case may be. So Justin Jefferson's, starting to have that, be a little bit more consistent, because that's what you want. That's what you want in your, yeah, you want the big play wide receiver. Yes, Jamar Chase, hands down, excuse me, would be the best. But if I want excuse me, if I want consistency, Justin Jefferson.
So you so you have Chase above Jefferson, but you're
Yeah.
saying that Jefferson is more consistent than
Yes.
Jamar Chase?
Yes, because he's been doing it longer.
Well, 2 years compared to 1.
But
I don't disagree with you if you talk about Jefferson consisting just 4 games under 10 points last year, and 3 of those were 8, 9, and 9. Well,
yeah, I mean
Jamar
that's not.
Chase had 7 games under 10 points, and 42 points of his total came in 1 week.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a good week.
But I think the point, I mean, this
Yeah.
is why I have Justin Jefferson higher than Jamar Chase. And I think the other big part of it is Jamar Chase has T. Higgins on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And he commands a lot of targets as much as Jamar Chase does. Now, if you guys feel that Jamar Chase is going to take a step even further next year and maybe separate himself from T. Higgins, then okay, I get that why you would have him ranked over Jefferson. But Jefferson has Adam Thielen on the other side, and that's really it, outside of maybe Dalvin Cook. So for someone that's going to get a majority of the targets, who's been consistent, they have a new head coach that came over from the Rams, and we saw what Cooper Kupp can do in that offense. Why would you not put Justin Jefferson over Jamar Chase? I mean, I get the big playability, but big playability leaves you with weeks where you're getting 3 points, 4 points, 5 points. T. Higgins has his games that takes away. So I don't know. I kind of feel. Go ahead.
But why can't Jamar Chase get that kind of volume? I know T. Higgins is there and Tyler Boyd is there, but this is a Bengals team that you saw evolve over the course of the season. So, like, they weren't a big time passing team right at the beginning because Burrow was coming off of an injury. They were easing him back in. You saw it towards the second half of the year. All of a sudden, they started to explode. Now, this is more what the Bengals are. They are a Joe Burrow in this receiving core, and so I expect them to try and light things up.
I agree. Burrow is another year off of ACL surgery. Things went really well for him in the second half, got to the Super Bowl, riding that momentum. But if we're just talking about straight up targets, Jefferson had 167 to 128. That is a massive difference. Now, give credit to Chase. He had 13 touchdowns to 10. But I don't know. I mean, if you're talking about strictly targets, I mean, 108 receptions to 81. I mean, if you're thinking that Jamar Chase, and maybe, and I've even looked at your T. Higgins rankings, because a lot of people have T. Higgins in the top 12 because they feel like he is just as good or at least comparable enough where he's going to grab 130 targets. And I don't know if they both can get 100. I don't think Jamar Chase can get 160 and T. Higgins is going to get 130. I don't know if that's how much they're going to throw. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't see that happening.
I say this is why not every year is the same, because that's not accounting for Dalvin Cook being hurt, forcing them to throw the ball more often.
Sure, I don't think that's the problem though. If it's anything, it's because Thielen was hurt last year, and then who's the guy after that? KJ Osborne. I still think he's gonna just gobble up targets. Where I think, and I've told you guys this based on Joe Burrow talk, Joe Mixon talk. I don't think they're going to throw more. I think they're going to rely on Joe Mixon. I'm not saying they're not going to throw, and Jamar Chase is not going to be. I mean, have Jamar Chase third. This is just a conversation between Jefferson at second, Jamar Chase at third. But I think they're going to try to be a little more balanced this year. Whereas I don't know in terms of how the Rams offense, if Kevin O'Connell comes into Minnesota and puts up the same time of offense, I think 160 targets is easily attainable for Jefferson, where I think Chase 130 might be the top of the ceiling for them. Top of the ceiling, if that's such a thing. But the ceiling for
the ceiling is the floor.
See, yeah, exactly. I just have this gut feeling about what's going to happen with Cincinnati, and that they're going to try and make Joe Burrow, like I said it previously, I think they're going to try and push him into that upper echelon and try and show people like he's an MVP type candidate. And it's going to be more him than it is Mixon this year.
Okay. Let's keep moving on. Let's chat about a couple of seasoned veterans. We're talking about some young studs there. But let's get into this conversation between Mike Evans and Keenan Allen. Todd, I'll let you start first. Tell us where you have him in the rankings and why you like Allen above Evans.
So I think obviously Mike Evans has Tom Brady attached to him. Keenan Allen has Justin Herbert, and obviously Herbert is definitely ascending now when it comes to some of the elite quarterbacks, but right on that edge there. But for me, the reason I had Keenan Allen over Mike Evans is I just think that the rapport that Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert have, I think they could do something special this year. Obviously, both of them are injury prone, so obviously I took that into consideration there a little bit. And I think too, the reason I had Mike Evans ranked lower is, and we always talk about this point too, is trying to be balanced as well too. Trying to kind of conserve Tom Brady a little bit more as well. Because
sorry, go ahead. 5,000 yards passing. Yeah, I don't think that's.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But no, you're fine. You're fine. But I just think trying to run the ball a little bit more. So that's one of the reasons why. I think this might this might be maybe like Keenan Allen might really even show out a little bit more than usual than he usually does. So that's why I have Allen 9 and Evans, I believe
14th.
Evan 14th. Yeah. So yeah, because like I said, the wide receivers I have ahead of Evans, Waddle, Pittman, Brown, and Moore. I just think some of those wide receivers Um, you know, I think might have some breakout performances. So that's why I have Allen ranked higher than Evans.
Mikey, what say you?
Well, first of all, neither one of them's injury prone. I
Agreed
mean,
there.
like Mike Evans is pretty healthy. Like Keenan Allen had that one season, but because it's when Todd drafted him, he seems to remember that all of a sudden it makes him injury prone.
Yeah, Keenan
Um,
Allen has just missed 3 games the last 5 years, and that is 4 games for Evans in the past 5 years. Relatively healthy for these two. But go ahead, Miguel. Sorry.
for me, it depends on what you're looking for, because they're two totally different receivers. Like the big thing with Evans is since Brady's been in Tampa, 2 years he has 27 touchdowns.
Woo, woo.
It's ridiculous. But he's pretty consistent as far as, he's not a guy that's ever going to get you 100 catches. He's well within the, 65 to 75 range. You kind of know what you're going to get. Where Keenan Allen's the opposite. Keenan Allen's going to get you 100 catches, but he's not a big touchdown guy. So Keenan Allen's the week to week. He'll get you your 10 to 15. You'll be happy with it. Evans is more of he's going to throw some 5 or 6 point weeks at you, but there are going to be those games where he throws 25 to 30 at you.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to choose what you would rather have.
Yeah. I mean, you put it perfectly. That's exactly kind of the idea throwing out there, right? Is Keenan Allen's the PPR guy, Mike Evans the touchdown big play guy. There's good, there's bad. Both have incredible quarterbacks that will throw the ball a lot. I have Keenan Allen just above Evans, 7 and 8, so I love both of them. Keenan Allen's a little bit older. I think he's up at 30 years old, and Mike Evans is 28, so you can use that. But it's hard to go wrong with either one of these guys, really. There's not much negative to say. I love both of these guys, so I'm right there with you, Miguel, in terms of it just depends on what you want. And obviously, it's all about points at the end of the day. Mike Evans had 202, Keenan Allen 192. They're right there. That's why I have them right back to 1-1. That's why I asked you that question. Next, let's go to the next one here. So let's go to a couple of guys that are number 2s, but they're going high at number 2. So number 2 wide receivers. Mike Williams broke out last year, although he's had some years before that, but played really well with Herbert. Jalen Waddle, obviously a guy Mikey's familiar with. And how about Allen Robinson? How about Allen Robinson, who's now with the Rams and that high-powered offense? Mike, I'll let you go first this time. What do you think about these guys? I didn't ask you to rank them, but feel free to pick one or two and throw some stuff at me.
Well, I've said why I'm a big fan of Allen Robinson. I love him going to the Rams. I love the fit, him being opposite Cooper Kupp. It's the first time he actually gets to play with a quarterback worthy of his talent. I'm just very bullish on what he can do this season. A lot of people may or may not have him ranked low based off of what happened in Chicago, but I feel like that's unfair to judge him based on all the nonsense that was going on over there with a rookie quarterback and a bad head coach. So I love Allen Robinson this year.
Todd, talk about any one of those guys. Would you like one of the better? Do you hate someone on that list?
Obviously, Waddle was kind of a late bloomer. Kind of started in the middle of the season a little bit when she started going. Obviously, very versatile type weapon for Tua. You can kind of put him around. You can place him anywhere in part of the field, on the outside, inside, and everything like that. He had 104 catches. 6 touchdowns. I think that number will go up a little bit. I think maybe at least 10 touchdowns for Waddle. So for me, Waddle's very interesting. Obviously in the second year in the system. in another in an off season where now Tua is the guy, regardless of the Tom Brady stuff going on, all that, or the Deshaun Watson thing. So I have Waddle at 13. It's, I think that's a good place for him to be, but I think he can definitely show out a little bit more this year, and so forth.
Jalen Waddle at 13 over Mike Evans.
Mm-hmm.
Seems a little nutty to me, but that's just me. I mean, I understand what Waddle did in his first year, but those numbers are coming down. Tyreek Hill is there, and I don't think Tua has the ability to foster those type of numbers to make two number ones between Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Am I wrong on that, Miguel? I feel like, I'd rather have Tom Brady with Mike Evans than Tua with Jalen Waddle, considering the years that Mike Evans has put on the board. But I don't know. Waddle seems high at 13.
Seems high at 13, but I'm also bullish on Tua as well. So while I'm not putting Waddle over Evans, no way. I still think that Tua has the ability to get Waddle his numbers and get Tyreek Hill his numbers as well. I think that's going to be a surprisingly good offense in Miami this year.
Interesting. All right. I like Waddle too. 21st, so I'm probably not as high as Todd. You have him 19, but I guess I'll talk about Mike Williams, who I have at 18. 7 games of 5 points or less scares the heck out of me, but they gave him $60 million over 3 years for a reason. Herbert's only getting better. I think he got unlucky in terms of being 6th in the NFL in end zone targets with 16 of them. Only got 5 for touchdowns. I think that's more unlucky than anything else. But man, the dude is such talent. And to have Allen, to have Eckler there, he won't have elite targets, but he's 18th. I'm not expecting him to have elite targets, but he's a guy that's going to get a lot of looks. He's a big time game guy. He had 129 targets last year, which were career high for him. So I don't see targets going down for him by any stretch. In fact, they may rely on him even a little bit more. So I'm excited for Mike Williams. I don't know if I even have him high enough for as excited as I am to have, especially as a number 2 wide receiver, considering there's some number 1s we haven't talked about. But there's a lot to like about this guy, although he was super disappointing in the playoffs for those who had him. 5 points in the opening round and 0 in the second. So, I think there's obviously improvement that could be made, but there's a lot of upside there for Mike Williams. Let's go on to the next one. More wide receiver talk, trying to cram in as much as we can here on this episode. These two are kind of, I don't know what the right word is. Polarizing, maybe. Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins. We'll start with Mikey in terms of when are you going to take your chance on Michael Thomas or DeAndre Hopkins? A couple of guys that we're not sure when they're going to start the season. Obviously, Hopkins is not going to start until game 7 of the season. Michael Thomas playing a little bit these days, but how are you viewing those guys, Miguel?
As far as round goes, I would probably look at 5 or 6.
Okay, so pretty high, actually.
Yeah, it just depends on how froggy you're feeling. Hopkins is gonna be back, after 6 weeks, and when it does, it's like you're getting a tier 1 type receiver back in your lineup. I don't think there's any reason to think that Hopkins won't be, really good, just like he always is. Michael Thomas.
You have Michael Thomas extremely high, by the way.
I do.
Over Mike Evans, by the way.
I really do.
Someone hasn't learned their lesson from earlier, but go ahead.
I really do. Look.
I really.
This is what projections are all about, and we see this year after year after year.
Yours, Todd's, or the pros? Who are we talking about in terms of projections?
Well, I'm just saying, in the way things play out, there's always some big-time surprises that happen. So when I'm prognosticating, I'm trying to take a gamble as to what I could envision happening. If he's right and if he is healthy, there is no doubt he's one of the top receivers in the game. and no reason why he could not be a top 10 guy if he's right. We've seen it.
We've seen it with Drew Brees. Have we seen it with Jameis Winston?
We've seen Jameis
I
Winston
agree.
have the ability to get the best out of, his receivers.
Yeah, but we're talking Jameis Winston of years ago. Like with Mike Evans, right? Who you have Michael Thomas over. I get it. Michael Thomas is a lottery ticket. But number 8. Now I agree. I would if he was 100% right now, I would move him up. I don't think I'd move him up over Mike Evans. But I mean, he's 29. Oof, that's up there to figure he's going to put up elite numbers. And I think too. Let me put this out. Let me say this. You can go in, but I mean, I even think they hold the reins on him back a little bit. You think they're just going to let him go out there and run every route of every game for the rest of the season and put up 150 targets? Probably not. I could be wrong.
If he's 100%, why not?
Because he's old and he's been through a serious injury, and they want to keep him. I know we've had this conversation with before in terms of holding guys back, but to keep them healthy. What do you think about Michael Thomas, Todd?
Well, I do agree.
Not much. You have him 27th.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree the fact he is a lottery ticket in some instances. But we just haven't seen him. We've seen him attached to Drew Brees for so long, and we're just so used to it. And then he's get injured, and he gets injured. So we have to really see, what he can do with Jameis Winston and so forth. Hopkins, obviously, suspended for 6 games. Obviously, he's not hurt or anything like that, but rule. But in that offense with Murray, I would rather go with Hopkins. I have Hopkins. I mean, there's not a huge gap. Only three wide receivers ranked in between both of between Thomas and Hopkins. But I'm going with Hopkins just because. All right, like he's not coming back from an injury. So I feel a little bit more comfortable with that with Hopkins as Hopkins is not even a lottery ticket because we know what he can do. He just said he made a bad decision. But if I'm gonna draft Hopkins, maybe in the 7th round, maybe 7th round, I would be more comfortable drafting Hopkins in the 7th round and waiting for those 6 games than I would Thomas, knowing, okay, he's coming back from an injury. Will he be 100%? Am I willing to, I don't want to say waste a pick, but take a gamble on that. And to me, I'm not gonna do that. I would rather draft. I'd rather take a chance on a rookie wide receiver at over Michael Thomas, just because we just don't know how he's going to be when he comes back. So that's what I would do.
Hey, it's easy to play scared.
Mikey, if my assumption is you're making the move of Michael Thomas at 8 if he's 100%. What if they say he misses 2 to 3 games? How far do you bring him down in your rankings, if at all?
2 or 3 games, I'd move him down a little bit, but he'd probably still be top 25. Like, my rankings are not reflective of where I would draft him, obviously, because that's a completely different exercise.
I agree, but that's why I'm asking to have Thomas ranked 8th. You're saying you feel he's going to be 100% when the season starts.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I'm just trying to convey. So if at some point, which is possible, that we're going to wait 2 to 3 weeks to make sure he's NFL ready or football ready, then I figure you'd probably move him down. And I think that's just audience knowledge for them to know that, you know, while you feel he could get to a point where he could be a top 10 wide receiver, a couple of games is going to put him down a few notches. That's all I'm trying to convey as we go through this. All right, let's talk
Okay.
about a guy I feel that is all over the place. Deebo Samuel had quite the season last year. He is a guy that not only caught passes, got a bunch of targets, but was also able to run the ball effectively in that San Francisco offense. He was tough to kind of gauge for me on where should I rank this guy? Can he do it again? There was a point in time we were talking about, is he even happy to be in San Francisco? Is he going to be moved? Is the new place he's going to go even going to use him the same way as the 49ers did? We don't have to worry about that now. He got paid. Todd, where do you have Deebo ranked, and how are you feeling about him going into this 2022 season?
I have Deebo ranked 8th. So I have Hill and Lamb ranked ahead of him. Yes, obviously got his money. That's what he was, because he felt like, he was worth it because he was, wide receiver and running back. So obviously, he felt like he was an all-purpose type player. So again, it's we had the conversation about Cooper Cup and Jamar Chase and everything. Can these players at least either try to repeat what they did last year or come close to it? It is going to be very interesting with Deebo now because Garoppolo is not the quarterback. It is Trey Lance. So how is that dynamic going to how is that dynamic going to look like? And to me, obviously teams are going to just hone in on Samuel because whether you're going to try to throw him the ball or try to hand the ball off to him. So to me, that's why I had him ranked that low because can he can he do what he did last year or close to it? Because we always talk about this, whether it's reality or fantasy, and I think this really does apply to this. Sometimes when these players get these big contracts, sometimes, not always, but sometimes they go like, well, I got my money now, so I'm not saying they're not gonna try, but sometimes that kind of dips, that kind of makes their performance dip a little bit because they're like, well, I got my money, so I'm not, I already proved it, so I don't have to do it again.
Well, you have him 8th. Does that mean you feel like he can have another great season, put up 20-point games? You never really said if you thought you were putting these, well, will they, won't they type vibes.
Yeah, I mean,
but you feel like he's going to put another good season together. I mean, 8th signifies yes.
Well, I mean, he finished. I mean, what, he finished second. He finished second last year. Third
in our league.
So I think he'll get close to it, but I don't think it'll be like it was last year.
Okay, Mikey, what do you think about Deebo? You have him ranked 15th, so lower than the rest of us. What is the hesitation to? I mean, I know when I faced him, he seemed to give it to me every time. So what is your hesitation on putting him back in the top 10?
I feel like somebody that touched the ball as much as he did, especially in the run game, is incredibly fortunate to have lasted as many games as he did.
Ooh, Mikey's saying he escaped the wrath of injuries, is what you're saying.
He did. And I just wonder if they're going to, if he's going to have the same kind of usage, if he's going to be able to handle that type of workload again. And he also, I mean, he had 8 rushing touchdowns. That's gonna, I
That's
don't know.
massive.
I feel like that's a hard number for him to replicate. I mean, one of the things that was kind of a deal with his contract, they put incentives in there for rushing because like they want him to continue to do it. But one of the things was he told them he doesn't want to continue to do that. So
Is that a good thing? A bad thing? I mean, for fantasy, it's good, but if he focuses on the passing, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
it's a bad thing for his fantasy stats because the rushing added
But does his
another
receiving go
dimension.
up? Maybe those 6 touchdowns go to 10. Those 121 targets go to 140.
I'm with Todd on this one as far as I don't know if that's the case with a rookie quarterback because essentially he may be second year based on like being on the team, but for all intents and purposes, Trey Lance is a rookie.
Agreed. I think Trey Lance makes all the difference. I have him 6, so I'm super, super high on him. But I think with a young quarterback like that, Debo is going to be the guy that ends up being his safety harness. And if Trey Lance is not executing as an NFL quarterback passing wise, we know his abilities to run the ball. But if things aren't going right passing, Debo's gonna be a guy he can hand the ball off to and throw short passes in space and make things easier for Trey Lance. So that one, because I mean, I'm not a big Jimmy Garoppolo guy either, but he's more of an in pocket guy and be able to throw accurate passes. Trey Lance, we're not sure what we're getting out of him. It could be great. He could learn a little bit, get a little better than last year. But with Debo there, I think he benefits more than anyone else on that offense. I know you guys were really high on Eli Mitchell in our running back episode, but I feel like Debo could benefit greatly in terms of helping Trey Lance go forward. And Debo I think he's something special based on what I've seen. He's kind of passes that eye test. I'm excited to see what he can. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, here's the one thing I always worry about with rookie quarterbacks, especially ones that are run first. The one thing that they like to do, hold on to the ball.
Yeah, that's true.
So
So
yeah,
we'll kind of see how that goes. Yeah, Debo, he's a tough guy to gauge, and it's unfortunate we probably won't see much of him. I don't know. I mean, with Trey Lance getting a lot of, you assume Trey Lance is going to get a lot of run in the preseason games, but I don't know. I would love to see him out there with Debo just to see what kind of situation, what kind of offense they're going to run. Because if Trey Lance can be something of a Lamar Jackson light or a Jalen Hurts light, I mean, he was pretty revered for his passing in college. So we'll kind of see how that goes. All right, back into we're going to play a game that we've already kind of started in terms of who would you rather have. And I'll ask you a couple of guys and you could talk about which one you prefer. And so we'll start things off with a couple of young studs. We kind of talked about T. Higgins a little bit earlier, but how about T. Higgins or Michael Pittman Jr.? Mikey, we'll start with you.
Oh, I'm taking T. Higgins all the way. Like I don't necessarily get the Michael Pittman love. I have a hard time with this one. Like, are we really going back to riding the Matt Ryan train? This is what's going on here on a run. Like, do we understand that they ran the ball pretty much like 80% of the time in the red zone last year? Like, that's a ridiculous rate. Like, how is Michael Pittman going to be able to get to close to top 10 status that you two have him? I just don't see any possible way of that happening. And I mentioned with Higgins, I expect the Bengals to be more pass heavy and that it's going to be riding on Burrow. I think Higgins is a part of that. I think he's going to have another big year, and I've got him as a top 20 guy.
So, Todd, between I cannot say T. Higgins for anything. So, Todd, between T. Higgins and Michael Pittman Jr., who do you prefer?
Pittman Jr.
And it's not even close for you.
Yeah, 12. Yeah, 12. I think this is a breakout season for him. Yes, I mean I understand it's Matt Ryan, and obviously they want to run the ball. I know they have Jonathan Taylor, and obviously, you know number one rated running back, and across the land a little bit. But I think Pittman Jr. I think might have a breakout season, and I just think he might be Matt Ryan's number one target next. Obviously Taylor would be number one, but it's kind of 1-1A. I think Pittman Jr. will be that second option that Matt Ryan goes to.
Well, let me tell you why I think Michael Pittman is a close to top 10 guy. Dude put up 88 receptions, 129 targets, 6 touchdowns with Carson Wentz.
Yep.
And Matt Ryan has shown that he can put up a top 10 for a wide receiver in terms of what he did with Calvin Ridley. Yes, in terms of what he did with Calvin Ridley, what he's done with Julio Jones. Julio Jones was a little bit further back. But in terms of what Matt Ryan can do with an offensive line and a top rate wide receiver, I don't think it's even a question. It's that he could be a top 10. I have him 11, so top 11 wide receiver. He's going to get all the volume. He's got no one behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So he has every ability to get 140 targets and be close to top 10. Tell me why you're giggling in the background.
Man, draft day can't come soon enough. One of you guys is going to end up with Matt Ryan as your quarterback.
Oh, come on. That is so ridiculous.
Oh, my God.
For all the bad years Matt Ryan has had, he's put up decent numbers with Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Oh,
Even if he's not finishing as a top 12 quarterback, he's putting up top 10 numbers with Calvin Ridley. No one's saying you have to draft Michael Pittman and Matt Ryan with the same pick.
But the whole basis of the argument,
Michael Pittman's a good wide receiver.
The whole
Yeah.
basis
Too bad he doesn't have a better offense.
The whole basis of the argument was based on Matt Ryan.
Oh, okay, Mr. Derek Carr and Devontae Adams number one. Sure, whatever you say.
Look, I'm not disagreeing with the fact that he is the only guy there. That's not debatable. They don't really have another guy that's worth mentioning. But in order for him to be a top 10 guy, I feel like he's got to. The Colts kind of showed their cards. I mean, the run rate, red zone run rate, was just so ridiculous last year that there's no way that Pittman can be like that top 10 guy. I can't see it. Like, I tried to.
He finished 16th last year, despite all of that, and he's got to upgrade at quarterback. And he's in his second year, which means he should be getting better unless something happens to him in the offseason that we don't know about. But what we've seen on the field, why can't he be better? I'm not saying top 5, but top 10 is, at least in my opinion, is within reach.
I just don't see it. I'm sorry. I could be wrong, of course, but
well, of course, that's the fun part of fantasy football is trying to guess and decide. And do we make it a board bet? We haven't done a board bet in a while.
I'm all down for it.
Do we split? Where does Todd have him at? He has him 12th. So what do you say if we break even? Because I have him 11th. So I don't think he's, at least based on my rankings, he's gonna be a top 10 guy. But how do we say it as, do you feel that Michael Pittman can be a top 12 wide receiver? I say yes. If Todd wants to say yes, he can get in, and then you say no, and that's a board bet. What do you think about that?
I'm good with that.
Yep.
Todd, do you want to get in on this?
Yes, sir.
All right. So there's your board bet.
Thank you, Matt Ryan.
Yeah. Who was the other guy we're talking about? Oh, T. Higgins. I'll just quickly mention him. I think I've probably already talked about him. Finished. He had a credible finish last year. 8 of 13 games, hitting 96 yards or more. He had more of a target share than his boy Jamar Chase. That's why I don't have Chase as high, because I think T. Higgins is there. He's a good wide receiver. He's going to take some of those great days away from him. He's a good player, and he's going to suck away some of those targets. All right, let's go to the next one here. A couple of PPR guys. We'll have Todd go first this time. DJ Moore or Deontay Johnson. Todd, who do you prefer?
I have DJ Moore in my top 10. I have Deontay Johnson 15th in my rankings. I just feel like, granted, the quarterback competition right now in Carolina. I mean, I know it's between Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Oh, I know not the maybe not one of the best situations, but I just feel like I don't know if Baker Mayfield wins the competition, I think that'll help a little bit more. I think if it's Sam Darnold, I think I would drop more out of the top 10. But more again, receptions, everything like that. Like I said, the good thing is you can put them in the inside, outside of the on the field. So that's one of the reasons. And I just think you have. I mean, again, Baker Mayfield's not an elite quarterback by any means. I'm not, not even close. But he is a little. He is just a smidge of an upgrade at quarterback for DJ Moore. And DJ Moore, like I said, was doing it with beat up quarterbacks too. So I think this will help DJ Moore out a little bit more. So that's why I have him in the top 10.
All right, Mikey, tell us why you are shitting on DJ Moore with your 34th overall ranking.
This is one where numbers don't always make sense. Like, I think DJ Moore.
Higher numbers is better than lower numbers. Yeah, I
well,
get it. Go
no,
ahead.
I'm saying when you're looking at DJ Moore, you're looking at a total, but you're not reaching into how it gets there. Like, he's been very fortunate. He's been pretty much healthy, and he has a
that
few
bastard.
Well, I'm saying he has a few good games here and there, but I'll ask anyone in the league that's had him, and if they believe he's a number one receiver, because I'm guessing the answer is going to be no. This is somebody that in his career has never scored more than 4 touchdowns in a season. Why that would change with Baker Mayfield, I don't know. But, I mean, he's pretty consistently catch my 4 or 5 passes for 60 or 70 yards, never score, and that's how I'm going to get my numbers. That's not the type of guy that I want as my number one receiver. No, thank you.
Who needs a PPR guy in a full PPR league? I agree. Who needs him? Leave him for the rest of us.
As somebody that's
34th is a slap in the face, Miguel. It's a slap in the face.
Someone that's going to get me 8 to 9 points. I'm not taking him that high.
Considering how high you have AJ Brown, he scored more points than AJ Brown last year, right?
He did, but if you're asking me who's the better player, like, let's say both guys stay healthy for all 17, there's no way that AJ Brown finishes lower than DJ Moore. Not a chance.
I think you're completely wrong. For a guy, AJ Brown, he's never had more than 70 receptions in a season, ever. In a full PPR league, full PPR league, excuse me. I get it. If you're asking me who I would prefer on my football team, I'm taking AJ Brown. However, in a fantasy league,
hey, here's my deal. AJ Brown can win me a week. DJ Moore is never going to win me a week, ever. Is he going to be okay? Sure, but he's never going to win me a week.
I think there's something to having a guy that's catching 4 to 6 passes.
Sure.
On a consistent basis.
He could be a
guy
2 or
that can
3.
put in my lineup all season long. I agree. AJ Brown has bigger games, but why has he not taken that next step if he's that good?
Because
he's going and I feel like he's going into a worse situation.
See, we disagree on that. We disagree on that.
I mean, is Jalen Hurts that much better than Ryan Tannehill? Are they going to start throwing the ball more just because they got AJ Brown?
I don't know. I think so.
Todd, what do you think about those two guys? We're talking about DJ Moore, and we haven't even really talked about. Oh, we already asked you that, didn't I? In terms of DJ Moore, we haven't talked much about Deontay Johnson. In that offense, I have him ranked 16th. Mike, you have him ranked 14th. Is this just a guy? I mean, talk about a PPR guy, right? 107 catches, unknown what they're going to do at quarterback. Got his money. Do you feel good about him?
Well, I mean, it's going to depend on the quarterback situation. Who's going to be the quarterback? Is it going to be
Does that
Trubisky?
matter? Does that really matter between Mitchell Trubisky and a rookie?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense of if it's going to be Pickett, then it might affect his numbers just a little bit. But if it's Trubisky, I mean, it's still not great, but it's decent enough where you have somebody who's been through, who started and is play a little bit more games. But I mean, here's the thing: Deontay Johnson now is the number one guy. He got his money. So let's see how well he can be being the number one guy. Now, obviously, in recent years, he's kind of been the number one guy because Juju's always been hurt, and Claypool, is kind of the number two. So can Deontay Johnson be the guy that just the
Can he?
now? Can he be a full season?
No. Can he be the number one guy?
Can he be the number one guy? No.
We're getting a little long, but we're doing okay in time. Let's quickly. I don't even know if I want to ask this question, but maybe it's pertinent to the fantasy landscape. DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett? Go, Miguel.
Pick your
I agree.
poison.
It's awful.
I went with DK Metcalf on here only because I feel like, given the type of receiver he has a better chance of success than Tyler Lockett. Like, Tyler Lockett was tied to Russell Wilson. I mean, he was a smaller dude, deep threat. He had the best deep threat thrower in the league with Russell Wilson, and now he's going to Drew Lock or Geno Smith. I want no parts of Tyler Lockett.
I kind of don't want any piece of any of them, honestly. Like, as I'm going through my rankings, I'm like, okay, DK Metcalf dropping further. Tyler Lockett, I guess at some point receivers run out. I don't know. They're just, for us who have experienced the Denver Broncos with Drew Lock, and I've heard all this great stuff about Geno Smith in camp. Geno Smith hasn't done garbage in years, and even in those first couple of years with the Jets, it wasn't anything great. He was throwing over 13 or 14 touchdowns. It's just so anemic over there. It's hard to get excited. Let's go to the next one. I'll start with Todd on this one. Old faces in new places. Amari Cooper, Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquise Brown. Todd, who's your favorite of the three?
I will go with Juju just because he is in the better situation, because he's going to be attached to Patrick Mahomes. Cooper, you just don't know yet with Watson if he's gonna even play. So that's that. I want to say Cooper because I think Cooper is the more talented wide receiver, but Juju's just more. He's in the better situation. He's in the better situation. And Marquise Brown, who knows? They still probably have to. Who knows if the league's going to suspend him or not? But if I was going to rank those three, Juju first, Cooper second, and Marquise Brown third.
I don't even think you have Amari Cooper on your list as I'm going through it right now. So you may have just left him out by accident. But okay, he likes it, those guys. Mikey, and you don't have to necessarily rank him, but just talk about him. Is there one you like better than the other, or is there a sleeper or a guy, a bust in that situation? Just talk about one of those guys.
I'm going to make a bold proclamation. I'm going to say
proclamation.
I'm going to say that there was not a more underutilized wide receiver in the league last year, or in his career, we'll say that, than Marquise Brown.
Wow.
Preach it, kid. Preach it.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, if he stays out of trouble, I mean, who knows? He's picking up speeding tickets right now. But besides the fact, when I pulled up his actual like fantasy numbers per the number of snaps that he was on the field,
it's massive.
He's one of the best receivers in the league. But when Lamar Jackson is your quarterback, you don't get to reap the benefits all too often. now that he's headed to Arizona and he's got somebody that I believe can get him the ball more frequently, I believe that he's going to break out for real this year, and especially no Hopkins there in that first 6 games. Yeah, I got him ranked pretty high, but I honestly have.
Incredibly high. I
I
mean,
do.
I like Marquise Brown, but you have him 11th.
Yeah.
That is
Yep.
up there.
Yep. I
That
believe.
is incredible.
I truly believe in his ability. I think he's about to show out.
All right. We're keeping moving here, trying to get through these last ones. And I'm excited to talk with Mikey about this one. But a couple of second-year breakouts, Rashad Bateman, Devonta Smith, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Mikey absolutely hates Bateman. I think you have him in the 50s somewhere. If I can get my stupid computer to work. I think you have him ranked in the 50s somewhere. Yes, 54th out of your 55 ranked wide receivers. But feel free to talk about anybody on that list.
Well, I almost.
Did you allude to it with the Lamar Jackson stuff?
I believe I did. The only guy he knows how to throw to is Mark Andrews. So.
Oh, come on. Marquise Brown finished 22nd in points in our league last year, so he wasn't totally ignored. So go ahead. Sorry.
I just I don't see it.
Hates him. Hates him to Brandon Ayuk. That's how much he hates him.
I believe he won't be on my team, so you won't have to.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I don't think he's gonna even. I think you're just gonna get rid of the sticker before you even draft day starts.
Anybody else you want to talk to, or should I just move this on to Todd?
Nah, moving on to Todd.
All right, Todd. Out of that group, in terms of Bateman, Devonta Smith, and St. Brown, who do you like the most?
I like St. Brown. Obviously, no, it's Detroit. Goff is the quarterback, but I kind of like the upside a little bit on St. Brown. Last year, 5 touchdowns, 912 receiving yards, 90 catches. I think that'll go up a little bit, so forth. But I like Brown at number 20. I just think he'll be the next to DeAndre Swift. He'll be that other option, which that's all that combination I always like is like, okay, the main option really, besides the quarterback is the running back, but then you have just one main option at wide receiver. So I like that combination. So I think St. Brown will kind of take a little bit of a leap this upcoming season for the Lions.
All right. Gosh, I really like kind of like all of these guys. I guess I have Devonta Smith a little lower, but the way St. Brown finished last year, I guess it could be a couple different things. I mean, did he just figure it out at some point? Mm-hmm. Or was it an uptick due to Hawkinson and Swift being hurt and may have been the only guy there? I mean, he had 6 straight games of 10 or more points to end the season. 4 of those were 20 points. He was averaging close to 20 points per game. Only Justin Jefferson garnered more target shares during that time, and Kupp, the only one to have more passes caught. So I guess it depends on how you feel in terms of, well, something clicked for St. Brown or all the injuries, and that's all he had. They do bring in DJ Chark and a first-round pick, so maybe the offense, or at least the coaches, feel it was the latter in terms of injuries. But for him to catch 90 passes, 912 yards in the Lions offense, you hope he gets better. So I think there's a possibility not to forget him, but we'll just kind of see how everything kind of plays out, because we'll see when Jameson Williams gets into the mix. And I've never been a big DJ Chark fan anyways, so he could still be the number one guy over there. Okay, we'll keep moving things along here. A couple of number 1 wide receivers on bad teams, Mikey. Christian Kirk, Elijah Moore, and Drake London. Another interesting, you've been interesting on your rankings all day. Elijah Moore, 10th. Tell us why.
This was one of my. There's always like that surprise guy that you're like, huh, how did I not see this happening? And Elijah Moore is my guy when it comes to that. Like, there was a stretch last year before he got hurt, like where I felt like he was just hitting his stride. where he was ripping up the league for a few weeks, flat out uncoverable. I
You
just,
dropped him last year, right?
I did,
Okay, go ahead.
regrettably, because I liked him last year. That's why I drafted him. I just couldn't wait for them to figure their shit out. But when they did, someone else got to reap the benefits. I won't be so reckless this time. If I end up getting him, I'll be a very
10th is
happy man.
reckless. 10th is reckless.
But
Like
it's
you don't
not.
even need to get him
It's
like
not.
that
It's
early,
not
but
right.
that seems reckless.
And I wouldn't draft him that early. That's why it's not reckless.
It's reckless to think of the number he's going to put up compared to Keenan Allen. Like you're expecting him to put numbers better than Keenan Allen.
I am.
You know who the quarterback is, right?
I do.
You know it's the Jets, right?
I'm well aware.
You know they have like the worst schedule to start the season. It's like the hardest schedule in the first 6 or 7 games or something.
It's okay.
Would you like him that much?
I like him that much.
Todd, Christian Kirk, Elijah Moore, Drake London. You can talk about any one of those guys you want. No rhyme or reason. Go for it.
All right, I'll go. Wow. First of all, I want Christian Kirk's agent to get.
That's the real MVP.
Yeah, that's that.
All wide receivers across the league sent him a little money, saying thank you for blowing up the contract world, so we all can get paid.
Yeah,
That was
geez,
wild.
my God, I want him negotiating everything for the rest of my life. It's amazing. But I'll talk about Drake London. Obviously going into obviously drafted really high in the actual draft for the Falcons. Obviously, they're trying to look for weapons as well. I have him ranked 41st in my rankings.
We're over an hour. Let's just go with Mikey. Give me one wide receiver that you love that maybe we haven't talked about yet.
Ooh. Let's see. How
Or
about
if you want to plead your case about DJ Moore, you're more than welcome to.
No, I'm not going to plead my case about DJ Moore. How about this? I'm going to throw out Rondale Moore.
All right.
Again, here with Hopkins out, I think this is going to be an interesting test. But I feel like he's a guy that didn't necessarily get a lot of run last year, and I think you're going to see with Hopkins out and less AJ Green, I think Rondale Moore's talent's going to show. So I'll throw him out there.
Yeah. Showed spurts of, or I said flashes last year. Don't hate that at all. Todd, do you have a wide receiver that you love that we haven't talked about yet?
Yes, I'm going to go with and it's a rookie wide receiver who I think is probably going to be the best out of the bunch.
Todd loves his rookies.
Yes, I do. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver for the Jets. I think he was the better. I think he was the better wide receiver over Drake London, even though London was drafted higher than he was. But Garrett Wilson, there's just something about him. I mean, he's not Jamar Chase. He's not Justin Jefferson. I'm going to preface by saying that right off the bat there, just so I can make myself clear on that point. But I think, with all those weapons in New York, I think we'll definitely help Zach Wilson. But Garrett Wilson, I think he was I think he'll put up some decent numbers. As a rookie wide receiver for that offense, even though it is the Jets. Again, I know it's the Jets. It's Jets. You got to kind of say that 3 times in your head as you say that. I know it's the Jets. It's the Jets, but I think Wilson is just explosive enough where he'll benefit.
I'll throw out one guy before we get out of here. One guy I was kind of impressed with when I looked over his numbers was Darnell Mooney. I think personally, if Chicago offense I don't want to deal with that. But he put up decent numbers despite a tough year from Justin Fields, 81 catches on 140 targets, which I was stunned to see 140 targets in a Bears offense. His second year, putting up good numbers, put up decent numbers in his rookie year too. 61 catches for 4 touchdowns. If anybody believes that Justin Fields is going to be better in his second year, his numbers could go up. And who are the guys he's battling with on a daily basis? Byron Pringle, Velus Jones Jr., Cole Kmet. There could be some that 140 could go up. I don't know how much the touchdowns, but even if he gets you 1 or 2 more touchdowns, he finished 23rd in our scoring last year. He could put up similar numbers and be fantasy productive for you for a guy that's going around 30th to 35, depending on who you're looking at. All right, gentlemen, that was a lot of wide receivers, and I know we didn't get to everything that we wanted to get to talk to today, but we got through a lot. And not too far from the draft on next week's show, we're going to talk about some tight ends. I know we all love that, so that'll be pretty quick. We'll give you any news. Maybe we'll talk about, I don't know, maybe some sleepers. We'll see how it kind of goes, but I'm more excited. We'll do a 2-round mock draft.
Yeah.
Know what we're thinking about as we head into the final couple of weeks. So this was a fun episode, honestly, guys. We were all over the place. I felt like we were a little more consistent or a little more, I don't know, agreed. I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but in terms of our rankings for running backs, but we were all over the place for wide receivers. I thought that was a really fun talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe.
I agree.
We all agree.
We were all so much all over the place that now no one has an idea of what to do. Don't go by our rankings, go by your own rankings. But there was a lot of polarizing guys, to say the least. So I'm excited about that. All right, gentlemen. Well, thanks for coming on. We'll be back at it next week to talk about those tight ends, some latest news, and of course the 2-round mock draft. So for Todd Diamond, Mike Renault, I'm the birthday boy, Eric Lansing. We'll see you next time on the MHA podcast.